Berserk, as many might assume, given my name, is my all-time favorite manga, and if you're a cool guy, it might be yours too. But some parts are more favorite than others, whether it be a cool fight or simply some gorgeous artwork. Berserk has chapters that shine above the rest. Here are my subjective takes on which chapters those are. Disclaimer, I'm a normie and I enjoy showy fights and lore dumps. Not a huge fan of chapters full of subtle character development. So, sorry. Begin. In a world of blood and guts sometimes, all I want as a reader is an epic win. Guts has struggled and struggled his whole life. Even when he's winning, he's struggling. So when I see him conquer his inner darkness, even when it's solely due to a little witch's help, it still brings a smile to my face. Guts, the Berserk armor, working as one. A mix of level-headedness and otherworldly strength and persistence, the perfect combo. Batman Guts is everything to me. He can go toe-to-toe with the biggest and the baddest, and the gang can rest easy knowing he won't slice them all to hell. This solidified Shirka as best girl to me. She did something I'm sure no one thought was possible, even her. Or at least, I doubt she knew the end result. Guts not completely snapping out of the armor's grasp, just enough to have a clearer mind. Anyway, cool progression, and that's about it. I'm not sure why, but seeing a member of the God Hand again so abruptly really struck me. I just wasn't expecting it, whereas in the Eclipse I knew to expect some sort of nonsense, being that Griffith was shown to be the baddie pretty much right away. But here, I was actually entirely surprised. Yes, it was just a manifestation of Slan, but it's still the most we've seen of the God Hand, not counting Griffith, since the Eclipse. And to think, she's still more powerful than Guts. Learning her and Skull Knight had more of a relationship than I had initially thought, Slan astrally wounding Guts to the point of needing the Berserk armor in order to survive his bout with the Apostles. The fact that the members of the God Hand can manifest themselves in certain areas of the physical plane, that meaning less now that SK split open the fabric of the universe, but still. So many story ramifications from these two chapters. We also got more of an idea as to what Scully's sword can actually do, and whenever some more SK explanation comes my way, you know I'm gonna be listening. Just some of those chapters that really keep you reading. Talk about a fan service chapter if there ever was one. Guts not only teaming up with Zod to fight a greater evil, but him riding Zod like a god on his mythic steed. Never has my mouth been more agape with joy than in this moment. There's a forced trust developed in a charged instant, and I feel that trust will come up again in their inevitable future/final encounter. During the battle with the fiercest apostle known to man, Zod has a choice to make: madness or volition, beast or warrior. And then Magic the Gathering goes and steals the idea like a bunch of bitches. Speaking of Zod, Berserk gave us monsters in the very first chapter, right out of the gate. Delivered well, of course. It's Berserk after all. But you know, it was right in our face, no subtlety. But then, 4 volumes later, Miura hit us again. But this time, he really gave us the sense of something supernatural. Chapter after chapter of normal medieval life. Swords, tactics, horses, you get the picture. But then, once more, bodies line the corridor, torn to bits. No man could do such a thing. Not even a beast could produce a bloodbath of this magnitude. No, it must be the work of something demonic. Enter Nosferatu Zod, the embodiment of war. Guts sees him, for the first time, a giant, but seemingly still a man. Guts races toward him, ready to cut him down. Zod throws bodies like they're nothing, with the force to knock Guts to the wall. This is no man. It's great because Miura got us used to the low fantasy of Golden Age Berserk, only to hit us with the most important demon in the entire story, and then go back and do another super long lull in fantastical/demonic activity. In this chapter we got the first re-up on the whole God Hand Behelit thing, and it really piqued my curiosity on just exactly how we would wind up in the spot Guts was in Volume 3. It was also cool seeing Guts and Griffith team up like that. We never really got that again. Casca back when she was a major jerk too. These chapters really have everything. Here's the lore dump I was talking about. A massive, steaming, egg-shaped lore dump. Look how big Guts' hand is. Look at the skull-shaped shadow in the window. Look at all these RPG characters with their cool new upgrades. We get answers. We get weapons. We get smiles. And we get the signature cliffhanger involving Skull Knight we've all come to love. I adore these chapters, and I reread them probably more than most other chapters on this list. There's just so much to take in. Berserk has always had a curious world. Shrouded and vague. Miura gives us peeks into it, like at Flora's or when Slam ripped into Guts' glorious pecs and abs, but this singular moment is like no other. the blast of the Astral World rips a hole through what I had assumed I knew about the Berserk world. I never expected such a thing to occur, and for Skull Knight to be the one to cause it, no less. The astral plane melded indefinitely with the physical world, resulting in an unknowable amount of change. That, coupled with the best art I have ever and will ever see, makes these some of the best chapters in Berserk. So if Zod x Guts against Thunder King was the moment my mouth was agape with joy, this is the moment my mouth was agape with terror. There has been talk after talk on the level of doom the eclipse brings to the table, so I'll just leave it here. The back of Berserk was built on these 3 chapters, and I'll never forget them as long as I live. After hearing how Griffith really felt about him, Guts decides to leave his side. Understandably so. He had to. He couldn't be Griffith's equal while in his shadow. They're able to have one last bout of camaraderie, but then it's time for Guts to go. The presentation of this chapter is captivating. The standstill, the snow, the subtle hints of motion and pain. These types of things line every page of Berserk, but here they really shine. It's a moment where your brain is forced to be quiet and simply watch. There's no way Guts is going to beat Griffith. Could he even? I mean, last they fought, Griffith owned him, yes. But Guts has grown, and Guts has his mind set. Griffith owns him no longer. To me, this moment is what ended the idea of the Golden Age. The Golden Age was Guts, Griffith, and Casca, and to a lesser degree, the rest of the Hawks. But that was no more. What led to this? Well, from the assumption, to the act, to the aftermath. The Julius assassination chapters of Berserk are some of the finest storytelling I've seen in all of manga. No, all media in general. A man of high stature seeks to end the life of an up-and-coming icon. He fails. He realizes all too quickly the gravity of this action, just from one look of supreme conviction cutting deep into his soul. You tried, Count, and it will be your death. He waits in fear, his feelings warranted, for the untouchable White Falcon has sent him his grim reaper. Guts, the strongest piece on Griffith's board, under the guise of a request, is ordered to retaliate. The wind whistles, or is it death whispering? From the dark, a figure emerges. Julius reaches. Without skipping a beat of his heart, Guts swings. The deed is done. But the threat of a witness. He moves again, faster, out of fear. He had to act, and he did. And as a result, a harmless child is murdered. The look of confusion and shock in Guts' eyes. What has he done? It was supposed to just be one man. A man that wronged Griffith, not this child. Before he can even really grasp what had happened, he must move again. He brutes his way out and escapes through the drainage tunnels. His dreams haunt him. And after all of this, after risking his life for Griffith, he learns just what place he really has in Griffith's heart. Not that of a friend, but that of a pawn. The best chapters of the Golden Age, hands down. Never has a sequence of events been delivered so fluidly. True genius. So at the beginning of the video, I mentioned I just want flashy sword fights and lore dumps. Not big on shoujo moments, you know? Well, Bubbles of Futility is a hard exception. Spired put it best when he said this chapter is about Guts coming to terms with what he had lost, and what may remain lost for good. This sentiment sticks so hard into my brain that whenever I think of Guts and Casca, even now being she's restored, I just see her falling, slipping through Guts' metal fingertips, harkening back to a somehow more hopeful time. Guts succumbing to the side effects of his necessary adoption of Skull Knight's old armor, being trapped in more ways than one, and having to accept it. I'm thrilled he got what he was searching for, but man does this chapter still hit home. Guts is backed into his darkest corner since the eclipse, wounded, unsure of how to handle this overwhelming wave of demon soldiers, the strongest of the strong. Luckily, Skull Knights is there to rescue him again, not in such an absolute way as during the eclipse, but by bequeathing unto him an item he once donned himself. A way to cheat death, a way to exceed his natural limits, using his life as payment, a coffin with which to fight in. The Berserker armor. So ensues a display of animalistic rage like no other, a threat of every living entity in sight. Whew, this armor changed the game for me. It was already my favorite anime beforehand, but this pushed that shonen button I was yearning to have pushed. A power-up. No, the power-up. It even ties into volumes and volumes prior. Guts' beast, Skull Knight, the literal name of the manga. There's no better device for power creep in any other story. Sage mode? Stupid. Gear 4? 4? Get it. Skullface? What? This makes sense. It's not overdone, and it really shows off how badass Berserk is supposed to be. I mean, this to me is what ties the theme back to what the story once was. Yeah, it's not about some rage-filled anti-hero anymore. It's about a real hero and his friends moving toward a righteous goal. But there's still that lingering fear. This armor and Guts' inner beast could wind up murdering each and every one of his friends. It's Berserk, through and through, absolutely perfect. Forgotten friendship, unanswered questions, rage. Ever since the eclipse, Guts has wanted to cleave Griffith through for what he did. He'd turned into a monster. The Griffith he knew was no longer. So to see him again in his human form, it was almost as if the Golden Age never stopped. But Guts quickly abandoned that feeling. Instead, it was a new opportunity granted to him. Griffith now walks in the physical plane. Guts can now enact his revenge. Guts, realizing Griffith was right before him, sent a chill all over my body. Is this it? Will we so soon get the battle we've all clamored for? Just maybe. Guts speeds toward him, faster than he's ever gone, only to be stopped by an innocent Rickard. It almost made me burst into tears seeing this. Rickard standing up for his old leader, not knowing the horrors that had come. He doesn't understand, but it doesn't matter. He's not that Griffith anymore. And then, Griffith speaks. You're the way you were when we first met. God, Guts is furious. Griffith acting as if nothing had changed. Griffith continues to taunt Guts. Gosh, this always fills me with such anger. Griffith came to see him to see if his heart was truly gone. And so, it is. There's no understanding in these chapters. All there is a man looking at a figure stealing the identity of his dead friend and wanting to make sense of it all. You don't feel anything after what you did? Guts goes in once more, only to be stopped by another familiar force. These chapters really tie a lot together. It progresses the story so much while also offering things we as an audience were dying to see. I was seriously dying to see another fight between these two, and boy does it deliver. We get to see Guts' fighting prowess and how it's developed over the course of several volumes. Using a sword from the snow, breaking Zod's sword, forcing Zod to transform. Man, Guts really held his own. Unfortunately, with only the strength of the strongest man, he was no match for Zod and all of his one-horned glory. The fight continues, and Casca's life is threatened. Guts rushes toward her, only to be slapped by Zod once again. He immediately regains his senses to look and make sure Casca is safe. No, but why? Why, God, why is she okay being near him? Not only okay with it, but crying. Why is Casca not trying to rip his face off? The man ruined her. Luckily, we discover her attraction toward him is because of his ties with her child. But in the moment, we're just as confused and as angry as Guts is. And just as he arrived, he leaves. It's an enthralling experience. There's simply too much to unpack in these chapters in just a single read-through. Volume 22 of Berserk is easily the best, and I read it more often than I'd like to admit. So yeah, that was basically top 10 fights of Berserk under the guise of top 10 chapters. Sorry. But hey, aren't those some dang good chapters? The absolute best, one might say? Maybe not, but they're definitely my favorites. Be sure to tell me your favorite chapters, and I'll be sure to delete your comments if they don't align with my opinion. I'll be back soon with more Berserk-related stuff, but until then, may the God hand bless you with a fist bump.